Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I know it's been a busy season for many of you on top of an already exhausting year. So, for those of you joining today live or taking the time to watch the video later, thank you. I wanted to take some time to talk with you all about the huge legislative package that passed the House yesterday. I'm going to explain some of the highlights and what they mean for you. And I'll cover some common questions that I'll be getting. And then I'll take questions directly from you. So please, if you have any questions, drop them below in the comments and I'll do my best to get to them. The legislative package contained emergency coronavirus relief and a government funding package to save the lives and livelihoods of the American people. And it's coming your way. So here's what you need to know. The legislation accelerates vaccine distribution. We know that we cannot get our economy working unless we get the coronavirus under control. The legislation that we passed yesterday will accelerate the free and equitable distribution of vaccines so that you can get access to a vaccine as soon as possible. It also implements a strong national testing and tracing strategy with billions to support our heroic healthcare workers and providers. It puts money directly in the pockets of the American people. There will be another round of direct relief payments worth up to $600 per adult and $600 per child. I know that a lot of you will have questions about this, and I'll touch on the most common ones shortly. I also believe that this payment doesn't do enough to provide relief for families in our community. This is the result of a bipartisan agreement, and I'm going to continue to fight for more financial relief until our economy has recovered from the pandemic. For those of you who have been unemployed during this time, we averted the sudden expiration of unemployment insurance benefits, added a $300 per week unemployment insurance enhancement from December 26th through March 14th, and lengthened the number of weeks an unemployed worker can receive benefits by 11 weeks. The law also ensures that self-employed, gig, freelance, and part-time workers remain eligible for federal unemployment insurance. It provides critically needed emergency rental assistance and extends the eviction moratorium. This package establishes the first ever emergency federal rental assistance program, which will give people funds to pay past due rent, future rent payments, and utility bills. It also extends the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention moratorium through January 31st so that the rental assistance program can take effect. The package delivers key tax benefits for families. Now, there's improvements to the earned income tax credit and child tax credit that help ensure that families who faced unemployment or reduced wages during the pandemic are able to receive a larger tax credit. For most of you, this will be based on your 2019 taxes. The package helps our students. The agreement provides funding for schools, including support for air conditioning and filtration systems to help reopen classrooms. School districts from across our community reached out to ask for help to make these critical infrastructure upgrades because some schools lack air conditioning altogether. One local fifth grade teacher crowdsourced funding for 11 classrooms AC units this summer after being told that teachers would have to pay $500 for air conditioning in their own classrooms. On top of all that teachers are doing for our students right now, they shouldn't have to fundraise for air conditioning units. We also approved additional funding to keep childcare providers open. Now, I've talked with childcare providers who shared that before the pandemic, they were operating on razor-thin margins. And now, with reduced capacities and increased operation costs, they didn't know if they would be able to continue. I'm so glad that we could get this done in order to help get parents back to work. The legislation gets more families online. Across our community, students are still struggling with reliable internet connections. Teachers shared stories of students who had to use the free Wi-Fi available in local fast food restaurant parking lots to get their assignments done because they don't have enough bandwidth at home. Schools and libraries have been doing all that they can to connect students with hotspots, but ultimately, we need bigger solutions for this problem. So, this bipartisan agreement will help millions of students, families, and unemployed workers afford the broadband that they need during the pandemic, and it provides money to build broadband infrastructure throughout our communities. There's help coming for small businesses, nonprofits, and restaurants. The package contains critical funding and policy changes to help small businesses. It includes additional forgivable Paycheck Protection Program loans, including for restaurants and nonprofits. And it has a program just for self-employed people and businesses with fewer than 10 employees. There is targeted help for live venues and cultural institutions like museums. And additional grant funds will be available to help many smaller businesses on main streets across the 14th district. It also extends and improves the employee retention tax credit to help keep workers in their jobs during the coronavirus closures or periods of reduced revenue. And it provides a tax credit to support employers offering paid sick leave. The legislation ends surprise medical billing. This is huge. I've heard from so many of you about this important issue. No matter if it's an emergency or a planned procedure, more patients will be protected from crushing surprise medical bills for out-of-network care beyond their control. Now, these are just a few of the most important wins. More help is on the way, and I want to make sure that you understand how this may help you, and want to make sure that we can answer any questions that you have. So if you have a question, again, please put it in the comments below. And then as you do that, I'm going to answer a few of the most common questions that I've been getting over the last few days. So first, who qualifies to receive a direct relief payment? Well, individuals making up to $75,000 or $112,500 for heads of households and $150,000 for married couples filing jointly. They will receive a one-time payment of $600 and an extra $600 per dependent child under age 17. For higher incomes, the payment will be smaller. Generally, if you received a payment this spring, you will be eligible for this round of payments. Next question. When will the direct payments be sent, and do I need to apply for the stimulus checks? Okay, we don't know at this point when the payments will be sent, although the Treasury Secretary has suggested that some could be sent out as early as next week. Most people who receive these payments in the spring should not have to do anything to receive their new payment. Our office is going to be sure to share specific information with our community once it becomes available. Next question. Who qualifies as a dependent or child for the direct payments? Now, it's important to know that this has not changed. Dependent children under age 17 are eligible to be counted for the $600 payments. Now, the next question. The question's about direct payments going to mixed status families. What does that mean? Now, mixed status families are those where a US citizen marries an immigrant without a Social Security number. Now, these couples pay their taxes together, But under the CARES Act, they were not eligible for stimulus checks. This package corrects the situation so that mixed status families receive the payments that they deserve. Now, there's a question. What does this relief package mean for my unemployment insurance payments? It extends federal pandemic unemployment programs through March 14th, 2021. This includes benefits for self-employed workers and workers who have exhausted regular state level benefits. It provides a boost of $300 a week for all unemployment benefits starting on December 26th and ending on March 14th. It increases the period that workers can claim unemployment benefits by 11 weeks. Okay, so you might want to screenshot that one because that's a lot. How will this package help me if I'm struggling to pay my rent or mortgage? We've heard a lot about this. The package extends the current eviction moratorium through the end of January, and it sets up a new program to provide money to help people pay their rent. It does not include mortgage relief, but the Federal Housing Finance Agency has extended the foreclosure moratorium for federally backed mortgages to January 31st. Forbearance options are also potentially available, so borrowers should reach out to their mortgage servicer with those questions. The next question. Having schools closed has made the childcare situation for a family worse. How will this help? The package provides funding to help childcare providers stay open, but it also includes tuition assistance for families. And then finally, what about my federal student loans? Will this legislation extend student loan relief? This is something that I have been laser focused on. And as many of you know, student loan relief was set to expire at the end of this month. In November, I asked Secretary DeVos to extend the current pause on payments, interest, and collections for federal student loans, and she did it. Policies are now extended until the 31st of January. Okay, that's the student loan relief policies are now extended to the 31st of January. The Biden administration will be able to do more on this issue once he takes office. Okay, so hopefully that answered a lot of the questions that you have. But we're encouraging everybody to put their questions in the chat so that we can get started in answering those questions. Are there any questions? I can't believe it. There's a lot in here. Well, for another status update, we know that this legislation passed the Senate in the middle of the night. So now it's on its way to the president's desk for signature, which is very important because the American people need this relief. So we have a question. I never got a first stimulus in the spring, and I'm pretty sure that I should have qualified. Okay, this is really important. We've been hearing from a lot of folks. Our staff has been in touch with people trying to check on the status of those checks. Here's what you need to know. You can claim the rebate on your 2020 taxes if you're qualified. Okay, so what that means is tax season is going to be coming up due in April, and you will have the opportunity to indicate to the IRS that you were owed these stimulus checks. And then when you get your refund, those will be included at that time. Thank you for your question. Are there any other questions? It's important for folks to remember if you have a very specific situation or a challenge that you want to talk with our staff directly, please give us a call. Our office, our phone number is 630-549-2888. 2190. Our staff are working. We know that a lot of people need some help or just understanding what's in this package and how it helps them. So don't hesitate to reach out. Again, 630-549-2190. We have another question. My concern is that I'm wondering how long it takes to establish the efficacy of the vaccine. Should we be worried? And so I did take the vaccine as soon as I could, and it was offered to me because I trust the data, and the data shows that this vaccine is safe and effective. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is continuing to assess long-term safety and efficacy. You might have seen some information in the news investigating like allergic reactions, for example. And we're going to continue to get that additional data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But we know that the data was reviewed by the FDA. It met their standards, and that's how the emergency authorization was released. Other questions? Okay, so in this bill, this is what's really important for you guys to remember. There's a lot of news articles about how we passed this coronavirus relief, but that was only one piece. So you all know that every year the Congress has to pass spending bills. They're called appropriations bills. The House, we passed ours in June, but the Senate never passed theirs. They just didn't do it, if you can believe that. And so we have been operating under something called continuing resolutions. I think you guys are familiar because we talked about this a lot. And so what this bill was one part coronavirus relief, and then the other part was all of the spending bills for the government operations for 2021 in one big package. They call that an omnibus. And so that means it's routine federal funding. So that would include foreign aid, that would include housing, that includes healthcare, that includes government operations, that includes grant programs for every line item, the Defense Department and all of our spending on national security, all of that was included last night in what we call an omnibus bill, which just means really big bill. So we passed two things. We passed the coronavirus relief, the bipartisan package that we have been negotiating to get this deal, right? And we passed regular government funding. And so some of the press is kind of conflating, right? They're saying, oh, we're sending money to X country, or why are they, changing whatever policies. That doesn't have anything to do with COVID. And you're right. Because that wasn't part of the COVID relief. That was part of the regular spending package. As you know, in Congress, sometimes they pile lots of things together because it's dysfunctional. Can we be candid? And so this is what's happened. We passed two big bills in one evening in the House and the Senate, building upon months and months and months and months and months of work. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies it for everybody who was, wondering what was going on with the spending packages. Okay, I'm going to ask again if you have any questions to drop them in the chat so that we can make sure to get those answers for you. Well, I just got back this morning. It's been a marathon and back from DC, obviously. And it's been a marathon negotiations and doing this work, but I'm so pleased that we're going to be able to move forward and work on this next relief package because we know that there's more to be done. Okay, so the next question, why is the $600 immediate assistance half the amount of the first one? That's a great question. And as you know, I voted for a bill called the HEROES Act in May 15th. We voted on another version of the HEROES Act on October 1st, and the Senate did not vote on any COVID relief since the CARES Act back in March. And so I keep emphasizing that this has been a bipartisan deal, a bipartisan negotiation. And quite frankly, the Republican senators did not support the direct payments. The folks who were pushing for direct payments, AKA these checks, were the House and the president. And so this is the deal that we could get. As you know, it's not enough. It's not enough. And I'm not trying to convince you that it is. I just want you to know what's in here that you could be eligible for, how much you can expect to get, and some additional details, which is why we wanted to do this town hall today. Because reading these articles can be confusing, waiting to get more information in the news. And we know that there are some commonly asked questions. And we wanted to just make sure that you heard it from me. So I hear you. $600 is not enough, most likely, for most folks in our community. Thank you for your question. Any other questions? Okay, so how will seniors be contacted to receive the vaccine? That's such a good question. Okay, so the information is likely going to come from the Illinois Department of Public Health. And so you can continue to watch for their updates. And our office will obviously be sharing information as it becomes available. So the Illinois Department of Public Health, they are on Facebook and on all the social media sites. You can sign up on their website for information to be sent directly to you. And I also encourage everybody to follow their Department of Health in their county, right? So every county, we have 7 counties in the 14th. Every single county has a health department, and they will also keep you well informed as vaccine becomes available in our community. Okay, we have another question. What's the status of 501c6 PPP? So this is the exciting news that I mentioned earlier, that nonprofits were now going to be eligible for relief. The 501c6 organizations, like local chambers of commerce, are eligible under this package. I actually led a letter on this and have been fighting for its inclusion. And I'm so proud that we could get this win for our communities, because we know it'll make a big difference. Our local chambers have been doing heroic work, helping all of our small businesses navigate these new programs, trying to figure out what would be forgivable under PPP and troubleshoot questions. And we're so thrilled that the actual chamber organizations will also be able to get this relief to keep their doors open. Thanks for the work that you do. Okay, so there's a question about unemployment insurance. Will the $300 per week in unemployment assistance be retroactive? So once this round of UI payments, unemployment insurance payments goes out, they'll be retroactive from December 26, 2020. It will not be retroactive before then, okay? So this is just beginning December 26th, $300 per week. Any final questions from the group? Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us as you think of your last questions. This is so important to make sure that we have the chance to discuss these items. Thank you. Okay. I am waiting to see. We've been sharing some updates about other legislation that has been recently passed and is headed to the president's desk, including a big veterans bill That includes a couple of my underlying bills, including the Veterans in STEM Act. We're so excited to be able to offer this kind of additional support to connect our veterans. We're so talented and have incredible skills to offer, and to expanded scholarship opportunities to have healthcare careers. That's what this one does. And so it's important. Okay, so our final question: how is this package helping local restaurants? So the Paycheck Protection Program under this package has new awards for restaurants and hospitality related small businesses, and they will be eligible for 3.5 times their monthly payroll. Okay. And so if you are a restaurant or a hospitality related small business and you are interested in this relief, that is what you should expect to receive once you complete your application and work with your lender. Okay. I want to thank you all so much for joining today. Before we wrap up, just want to remind you that vaccines are safe and they work. Controlling this virus will put us on a path to economic recovery and building a better future. Please remember to have impeccable hand hygiene, wear your mask, keep your distance, and stay safe, everybody. I'm wishing you all the very best this holiday season has to offer, and a brighter new year. 2020 has been so hard, but we made it. I can't wait to see all of you in 2021. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Take care.